Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of The Cosmic Force. My name is Tyler Reganti, and tonight we have another special guest from the Youtini family to discuss the unique title of Star Wars Adventures. We have more titles on the weekly pull list and a special announcement for our next roundtable that Caleb is definitely going to enjoy. But first, let's go around and say hi to all the hosts, and we'll start where we always do with Emma. Emma, how's it going up there in Maine this week?
Hello. It's going good. I was just telling everybody beforehand that I finally met a Youtini team member in person. Jared. I met Jared last week. We went to a comic shop. He found some classic Star Wars comics. I believe Valence's first appearance. I found some classic episode 1 and 2 action figures, and it was an absolute blast.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and there's no better thing to do than when you meet up with a fellow Youtini
for sure.
team member to then go to a comic store. So that is awesome. Caleb, how are we doing over there? I appreciate your wardrobe today. You're dressing down, but you're dressing for the part. So
exactly,
I approve.
Gotta show off the merchandise, rep the home team and everything. Things are going really well. Like him, I actually went to a different town, met up with cousins up in Chattanooga area and found a used bookstore and found a lot of like really good Star Wars comics. Like I found the hardback edition of Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith 1 and 2, the whole series. Very, very good. I was giddy with excitement when I found that. So probably the best part of that whole trip. Sorry, Jonah, but that was the best part.
Well, we turn it over to our producer, Jacob. Jacob, have you been to a used bookstore and found a comic book recently? As well?
I did go to a bookstore. I got a book about redlining. So not exactly. Some really riveting stuff. But yeah, no. That's about as close as I got, unfortunately. No comics as of yet.
All right, and let's turn it over to our special guest from Charleston, West Virginia, as I learned in the pre-show, Jake Ruddle. Jake, how's it going tonight?
It's good. How are you guys? Well, I guess, I feel like it's so standard to ask that question after someone asks, how are you? And it's like, I realize now that everybody else has said how they're doing.
I was doing
you at this point.
Yeah. I was doing great until you started flexing with your. Every time I see your backdrop, I'm so envious of all the things you have back there.
Like the other side over here. Or the thing is, though, is you can be envious all you want because my bank account is probably just like crying, especially with all the recent like announcements and everything of stuff that's coming out, and like I have to make some serious decisions. Like, do I need dinner?
I see your Black Series Ghost Crew. You're gonna have to recollect all those now that they redid them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's the problem. That's where they get you. It's like, okay, well, here's the exact same one but with a better face. And they just did that with the Luke archives, and there's like a Leia archives, and I've got so many Lukes. But it's always nice because whenever I replace them, I get to jump into the Youtini group and say, hey, who wants these? And I think Nathan,
I believe you were the one this past Secret Santa that got me my first one, right?
Yeah,
and
now you're the Mandalorian.
I've got one. He's up there somewhere. And thanks between you and Emma showing me Big Bad Toy Store.
It's a problem.
I only have one right now, but that doesn't mean I don't have some in my stash on that site, just waiting for it to get larger. So
the problem is when you look at it, you think like, oh, $20. Sometimes you find them on sale for like $18.99, and then you realize that you've got like 5 of them in your cart, and then here we are like a couple hundred in, and
right.
Then you throw books, then you throw comics, then you throw other things, and it's just it's a lifestyle, man.
We are really nothing if not enablers.
We are enablers of all things, and that is going to be the new Youtini motto. And besides enabling action figures and books, we actually talk about comics here. So if this is the first time that you are joining us, welcome. We are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/Youtini every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. If you can't join us live, that's quite okay. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and then you can have a little shortcut to watch all of our videos because they are stored right here on youtube.com for all of you to see, in addition to all of your favorite podcast platforms. We are also part of the Youtini podcast network of nearly a dozen shows and a Discord channel at youtini.com/Discord with more than 1,000 members with dozens of channels to choose from. Did you guys see some of the discussions that were going on earlier in the week? I think they were talking about the light and dark and just the whole a really deep discussion on the meaning of light and dark. It was a really fascinating conversation earlier this week.
I saw it. I saw how many messages kept going. I'm like, I can't keep up with this. Like, God bless you people, but it was so much of like, all right, I'm just like, I appreciate you guys. I just gotta take a step back from that.
If you have a positive mindset about Star Wars and you want to talk about anything Star Wars, jump over to our Discord and we have a channel for you, and I guarantee you will have a conversation for hours upon hours. Our Discord community is great, and we encourage you to join that. If you like what you see here, or if you like some of the other shows, then head on over to patreon.com/Youtini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Youtini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community events. So let's go ahead and get into our weekly pull list. We've got a couple of different titles, and I believe I even see a trade paperback on this list. Is that correct?
You do,
Jacob?
yeah. So, two single issue comics and a trade paperback that came out yesterday. So first up is Darth Vader number 13, War the Bounty Hunter, Sound of Metal. This is written by Greg Pak, pencils from Raphael Yanko. The cover is by Aaron Cooter. The colorist is Jason Keith, and the letter is Joe Caramanga. So just a nice cover with IG-88. However, we do, of course, also have our Pride cover. So that is everyone's favorite, the famous Admiral Ray Sloan, done by J.J. Kirby. No relation to Jack Kirby, I checked. And so, yeah, that's another great option if your guys are trying to get the Pride variants.
That's a gorgeous cover. I'm loving these Pride variants.
Yeah,
I appreciate the lens flare on the Vader up there as well.
Yes, yeah, very cool.
Ooh, oh yeah, I'm just now noticed that the like the rainbow effect.
Yeah,
that's pretty dope. Yeah, right under the letters there. And then after that, we have the next. Oh, that's not it. There we go. Star Wars Adventures number 5. This is the first Star Wars Adventures comic book we've gotten in quite a while, not counting High Republic Adventures, of course. This is the story Tales of Villainy, written by Katie Cook and Casey Gilly, with pencils by Ethan Bevers and Kara McGee. So we'll be talking all about Star Wars Adventures today, but if you want to pick that up, that's there for you. And then lastly is, as you said, a trade paperback. That's Darth Vader 2020 Volume 2, Into the Fire by Greg Pak. Pencils from Raphael Yanko, and the cover for this is by In-Hook Lee. I told myself I was going to look up how to pronounce that name, and I completely forgot to do that, so I apologize. All the links to those are down in the description if you want to get them on Comixology or Amazon or what have you. I have not read Adventures number 5, but Darth Vader Volume 2 and then this issue of Darth Vader are both fantastic, so I would recommend checking those out.
I ordered my Volume 2 yesterday, so
it is amazing and so crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're about time we get into Art of the Week. So give me 1 second, and that.
Yeah, Darth Vader. That whole this second arc for Darth Vader was really cool. Just from a larger, like, comic book aside, just from the larger galaxy-wide perspective, it really does some very interesting things that ties together everything else. So I believe that we've got everything good to go now, Jacob, right? As far as my Art of the Week.
Oh.
So my Art of the Week is something that we talked about last week. This is from the High Republic number 5. And we talked about this last week. Like I said, we were talking about the emotion that is on, the face here. I'm drawing a blank here. Key, thank you. I was like, I know it's not Keys, but on Keys' face here with and it's a really it's a beautiful book all throughout, but really capturing this this image, and this was the last image of the book, and I remember, like we said last week, that there was a lot of discussion in the Youtini Slack and in the Discord about this image. So this was a really cool image, and our discussion last week kind of brought me back to it. So I went back and reread that issue again, and it was just something that was really cool. So I decided to go ahead and choose that one for my art of the week this week. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to toss it over to Emma. And what do you have this week?
Yes, this week my art is from Star Wars Adventures story called Powered Down, and this is art by Derek Charm. This is just a really fun page showing the Falcon crashing into the water. We've never really seen the Falcon do anything like this before, and it just looks so like playful and fun, especially with the orientation of the panel when the Falcon's filling up with water. That's really funny. Also, I had to point out that, like, who knew that the Falcon had buoys under it for splash landings?
The Falcon has everything. I mean,
It does.
One would think it'd be watertight being a spaceship, but you know.
I would hope. One would hope. I mean, that's probably a good thing to have in a spaceship, but all the same, I really enjoyed this panel, and just seeing something unique with the Falcon. I feel like we've seen the Falcon in so many situations as it is, and to have a new scenario is super fun to see, and I loved it. Caleb, what is your art of the week?
This one came from the Dr. Aphra Annual #3 by Elsa Chartier, Edgar Diego, and Jim Campbell. That was just a really like a kind of a fun sort of story in Dr. Aphra Annual #3. It's kind of weird because it didn't actually have anything to do with Aphra. She was almost a side character in her own thing. We have everyone's favorite, second favorite Wookiee, Black Chrysanthemum, or Black Crustacean, as I sometimes say. As he's about to get into a little bit of fun here with the Mos Eisley Cantina, looking to collect on some bounties. So, I just love when it shows like a large action shot, and just Black Chrysanthemum about to have a very, very good time here in the next 5 minutes. So that was a really fun thing there. Jacob, what have you been looking at?
Yeah, so this is a great panel from Age of Resistance, the special,
Wow.
with Maz Kanata just having a time. This is pencils by Matteo Buffnaghi and colors from Chris O'Halloran. And it just reminds me, I don't know if any of you guys have seen the movie Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell. It's from my childhood, where they put the child on top of the child to play soccer. It's like that, but with guns. I don't know, it's just a little ridiculous, but I love it. So
who doesn't love more Maz? I mean,
yeah, she's
And
having
her eyes look red. It's so funny.
it's the goggles. She's having a great time right now. So that's mine. And now we're gonna toss it back to the community submission, which is something a little different this week.
Oh yeah. This one came from Princess Leia of Alderaan, the manga, Volume 1. Thank you, Josh, from our Discord. This came from the Claudia Gray adaptation of the novel, edited by Haruichi. I haven't actually managed to read this one yet. It looked like, I love it when like a manga goes in there. That's for a while I was reading like significantly more manga than I was comic books, so I really have to hunt this down. Have anyone here on the team read this one yet?
Mm-mm.
I have not.
I haven't read it, but I keep seeing it every time it's in my local comic store, and I haven't picked it up yet, but there's very few things that are still left for me to pick up in place of this. So I think
it's
gonna
fairly
be
recent,
soon.
isn't it? Like within the past.
I want to say it's like late 2019 or something like that.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
That's still pretty recent.
I feel like that's
yeah.
recent.
That's recent.
It was the most recent. Didn't they do? What was the one they did before?
Lost
Stars.
Okay, yeah.
Lost Stars.
And they
Yeah,
did.
okay.
Well, I think Rebels the last Rebels one was more recent than that, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, they did do a Rebels
Right.
one. Yeah.
And then
And Weapon of the Weapon of the Jedi, or was
Weapon
that
of-
IDW?
Weapon of the
Weapon of the
Jedi
Jedi.
happening right now, and
Yeah.
that's just
Okay,
like
got
that's
you.
like a 2-issue comic.
Mhm.
And then there's Guardian of the Wills, which is supposed to come out in September now, I believe, after it's been delayed a little bit. I think that's right. But yeah, I mean, I'm running out of canon stuff to read, so I'm imagining I'm gonna get to those pretty sooner rather than later. But I'm definitely excited for the High Republic manga to come out in September, though.
Yeah.
So thank you, Josh, for suggesting that one. We'll hit you up with that code soon.
Dude, contact me. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna reach out to you. If you reach out to me, I will get it to you. That's
That
how
way.
it works. All right. So what have we all been reading lately?
Tyler, take it away.
Yeah, I like I said, we after our conversation last week, I kind of went back and reread the High Republic, but that's about it. You know, it's Stanley Cup playoff time, so every other night I've got a Lightning game on, and that kind of takes all of my time at the end of the night, and so that's where half of my free time has been. So yeah, I still haven't been reading too much, but I'm hoping that that after the playoffs are over in about 2 weeks, I'll have some more time to read. But I know that Emma, you're gonna make it up for for my lack of reading like you always do. So what have you been reading this week?
First, I thought you were gonna make a joke about how my Bruins are no longer in the
Yeah.
playoffs. I appreciate you not doing that.
I decided it's been long enough. I was gonna rise above that, but I mean, since you did bring it up, no,
it's
no,
like-
it's.
No, I've had plenty more time to read now that I'm my team's not in the playoffs anymore. It's all right.
Same.
Oh, that's right, Jacob. Oh my gosh.
Imagine having a team
Okay.
still in the playoffs. Couldn't be me. No.
I know.
Imagine actually having a hockey team in your state.
Hey.
Yeah, imagine that.
R.I.P. the Thrashers. Anyways.
Yes.
So, anyways, yeah, I've been catching up on Star Wars Adventures. It's really funny the timing of this episode because I have been reading them anyways. Like, just personally, I've caught up on all of the Marvel Star Wars stuff. So I've been reading the IDW stuff, and I just kind of kicked it into high gear, reading 2 or 3 volumes just this week. So I've been doing a lot of that. I've been working on a new video that is supposed to come out next week. And next week happens to be the release of the next wave of the High Republic. So I wonder if those two things are related. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Tune in and find out.
Yes, tune in and find out. That's right. So yeah, that's what I've been reading. Caleb, how about you?
I've been catching up. I feel like I've said this for as long as the show's going on, but I'm almost finished up with the original Dr. Aphra run. It's like an exponential curve as it comes in there. Like the closer I get to the end, the slower my progress gets. I don't know if I'll ever actually finish it off. Like you guys, I've tracked down a few Star Wars adventures to be able to prep for the show. Read what was it, Tales from Darth Vader's Castle. That was really good, and a couple other miscellaneous things. So just doing some catching up, some putting a few things here, a few things there. So nothing crazy. Jacob, what about you?
Yeah, I've also been reading Star Wars Adventures, obviously for this, but I got I'd said 2 weeks ago, a week ago now, that I'd finished the 2015 era of the Marvel comics. So it was kind of just a natural time for me to transition over. There's not much Marvel left for me to read, so I thought I would burn through a bunch of these to kind of get prepped for the show. And I've been really I've really enjoyed it. They go by really quickly. I read I think 4 volumes of the main series, Tales from Vader's Castle, and then I wanted to try out one of the movie adaptations. So I read the A New Hope adaptation. So it was good. I'm definitely I'll wrap it up pretty soon. I'll probably finish all the Marvel, then finish all the IDW, and then I don't know, maybe we'll do some Legends, or I'll read an actual book for a change. That'd be nice.
Why not the 70s Marvels run?
Maybe we'll get there at some point. I've been reading Alphabet Squadron since February, so I really need to finish that. But yeah, it's been a good time. Jake, what about you? What have you been up to lately?
The biggest thing I've really been trying to. One, I've been keeping up with the subscription for the Darth Vader and the Star Wars run post Empire Strikes Back, just because when I first got into the comics, that was what really sold it for me, was the runs that were, I just did a video on it, the last video, the runs in between A New Hope and the Empire Strikes Back, just because I think that's what I always liked about the comics the most, was the little Easter egg type things that you get. I don't know if it's because you get the visual, like Emma was kind of talking about it and seeing the Falcon and everything. I don't know if it's because, you turn the page and you see something that you're used to seeing on screen. So I've been keeping up with those, but I've been a terrible High Republic person. And so I still haven't got through Light of the Jedi yet.
You need to catch up.
I know. That's how all this stuff with Rising Storm that's the one getting ready to come out.
Yep.
All the stuff with it is like getting me all jazzed up for it coming into the summer. But like I've started Light of the Jedi twice and have not finished
you gotta finish that. That's
So-
a great
well, and it's
time.
like it's killing me because I can't, like, I had to cancel my subscription for the comics to come out on like Comixology because
right.
I just wasn't like you have to finish Light of the Jedi before you can really go. I have them.
I would agree. Once you get through that one, then
Yeah.
you can kind of start to pick and choose your own adventures. But
Yeah.
you got to get through Light of the Jedi first.
So that is that's what I want to do. But I've just been, part of it has been time, because where I'm a teacher, the program that I teach in is, is anybody, maybe some of our listeners, the IB program, we have to do 13 books.
International
in 2 years if you do
Baccalaureate
this
or whatever
program.
it's called.
Yeah, that's it. So I do the English. So I spent a lot of the spring reading, my William Faulkner and Joseph Conrad and Toni Morrison and all that. So that was good, but it wasn't in a galaxy far, far away. So
I will never forgive my AP Lit teacher for making me read As I Lay Dying. That might be the worst book I've ever read.
William Faulkner is an artist, but
I
that's
couldn't
a whole
do it.
separate podcast. That's not my favorite of him, but
Welcome to
all
the Star Wars. We're reviewing the Shakespeare
Right, all right, so-
adaptations.
yeah.
We're
Yes,
on that exciting note, we're gonna hit the reset. We're gonna hit the reset button for a second. We're gonna go to a merch ad, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk Star Wars Adventures. And I think that Jake's gonna be able to have a little bit more interesting of a conversation for the rest of you guys listening. So we'll be right back. All right. So now that we're back, and let's reel it in here and let's talk about some fun stuff this week. And that's a very unique title for Star Wars comics, and that's Star Wars Adventures. Now, unlike the rest of my team here, who are very prepared, I haven't read any of this. So I've done a little bit of research on it, but there's a reason we brought Jake in tonight, and that's because he really enjoys this title. So Jake, why don't you give me a little bit of information about what exactly this title is and what I'm in for when I choose to pick this up.
So Star Wars Adventures, for anybody who's kind of been following along with the way that Disney has taken over, Marvel is obviously what we recognize as the comics. I guess you could say the mainstream, but a lot of people don't know that IDW, who's another comic book publisher, actually does some comic runs that they call Star Wars Adventures. They're, it's not really, they're geared more towards kids.
Right.
It's a younger demographic, but what has been really cool about Star Wars Adventures is that they have been able to tie in some more, I guess you could say, relevant canon stories throughout different comic runs. Particularly, you've got things like Flight of the Falcon. So if you have been to Galaxy's Edge, and as if you've taken, the Smuggler's Run and wonder how Hondo was involved with everything, that was tied in through some Star Wars Adventures comics. Also, the Destroyer Down run through Star Wars comics was really cool because that gave us a lot of background on what Rey's life was like in the Starship Graveyard. So there are some things that tie into the films, but a lot of people kind of get turned off with them because the animation or the art is I keep thinking that you watched on TV, but the art is a little more I guess you could say cartoonish.
It's stylized, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, but for me, I mean, I'm always going to be a big proponent of, I want there to be Star Wars stuff for every age group, because the thing is, especially the stuff that's geared towards the kids or younger groups, they can read it and get into it and jump in on the story. But I don't know that I've ever met an adult who's ever read a Star Wars Adventures story and been like, that wasn't worth my time.
Right.
And so that's kind of the biggest thing with it. It's what's also nice about it as well is that they've got, I told you before, they've got some little runs and things like that tie in on more extended stuff. Like the Flight of the Falcon was there are a couple junior novels that's tied into that too. It was kind of a whole media blitz thing. But they're nicer to read too, because they are a little bit more one-off. As far as the stories go, they're standalone. They're not going to be things that if you read this one, you're not going to get a huge cliffhanger. A lot of times they're stories that are kind of all within themselves, which is kind of their model. So I enjoy it. I like them.
And
just
I feel
because,
Caleb, you had said during the pre-show that like this was kind of made a big deal with the launch, right?
Kind of, yeah. Like I was back in 2017 when they first announced this. I think down at the celebration down in near neck of the woods down in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
And how they were first kind of digitally done, and it was kind of a big thing because, like I said, Disney also owns Marvel, so they, of course, they're going to do Marvel comics, but it's kind of giving like their precious baby out to another, third party. Not that they haven't done it with like, video games or something, but they already had a comic publisher. So I think it's smart for them to kind of make a different branch, a different branding, so they could put, the more youth oriented sort of things and one thing, so that the salty fans wouldn't get so upset about them trying to push kitty crap on them or whatever they get upset out.
IDW has a big track record of doing this kind of thing too. Like they have a lot of large media franchises that they do more youth oriented comic books for. Like I think they have like Transformers, I want to say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, maybe. Like there's a bunch of like those like classic
Turtles,
like not 70s, 80s and 90s like media franchises. I think IDW has some sort of licensing agreement or has done something in the past.
Plus they do a lot of movie adaptations, right?
I mean,
I think like junior like movie adaptations for juniors. Like I know Marvel does movie adaptations, and then I think kind of similar to how movies nowadays get a junior novel and a junior novelization, and then like a quote unquote adult novelization. Same thing with IDW. I believe they've sort of have the same business model,
they have a.
I did a quick Google search, and I see Transformers, I see My Little Pony, I see Turtles, Star Wars, High Republic Adventures, as we all know, Godzilla. So they seem to take even some Star Trek. So they seem to take some well-known, but they all have a very similar art style. Very, very. I don't want to use the word kiddish, but very cartoonish. I think that's somebody. Jake, you would use that word earlier. And it's sort of very stylized. And it definitely serves a purpose, and they definitely seem to be hitting their stride with that audience, because they continue to do this for a lot of major titles and franchises.
And the thing is, like, because I was thinking too, the completist in me is what really got me into adventures, because it was around the time a little bit before Rise of Skywalker. I think it was Matt Martin had tweeted, like, if you want to, he did like and he rarely does this, like a timeline of the order to read things, like between Resistance Reborn, what was the Rey's little adventure thing that she did, Spark of the Resistance. He like had those out there, but there were a couple Star Wars adventures in there. Like it tells you what Chewie was up to whenever he goes back to Kashyyyk. And that was what really kind of got me into it, because it was like, there's little short one-off stories, but like, if you go to Chewie's Wikipedia page and read about what was going on in between for him, The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, like it tells you that during this time he went back to Kashyyyk and blah 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 blah, and like that story was told in Star Wars Adventures. So it's the kid stuff, but for the completist, I guess that's why I'm a canon snob. I made fun of them in the video today. I'll admit. I can say that because I am one, but I like that, you're the reason why Chewie wasn't here in this book because he was taking place in that thing. And the fact that Star Wars Adventures can give us that has been one of the coolest things, because it's not for the Legends fans. My first introduction to Jackson was in Star Wars Adventures, because I hadn't read any of the Legend stuff before. So, there are things from the past that can kind of pop up that I guess you could call it legitimizing it, but it's like, isn't all Star Wars kiddie stuff. We're just a bunch of big adults.
It's true. George Lucas always said that Star Wars was made for kids. So
that is a very good point.
Yeah.
Now, Emma, it says here that it features a rotating creative team for each issue, and we've kind of got it broken down here that there are some common members, and then that some of us might know. There are a couple names in here that but I found it interesting that there's a couple of other notable people that have been involved with this run over the length of its run. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about some of those people that I think even some of those that are like me that really haven't dove into this title. There are some names here that they're going to recognize.
Yeah, so the most common writers here, we have Derek Charm, Michael Morici, Katie Cook, Landry Walker, Elsa Chartier, and most notably, Cavan Scott of Rising Storm, or soon to be Rising Storm fame, also Dooku Jedi Lost, a bunch of comics, the current Marvel High Republic run. He's a big Jackson fan, so I believe he wrote all of the Jackson Star Wars Adventures runs, which is really cool. And then there's some notable involvements here. Alan Tudyk wrote a Star Wars Adventures, and I believe I read this one, and it had to do with K2SO, if I'm remembering correctly.
That would make sense.
That would make a lot of sense,
sense.
as he did portray K2 in Rogue One. Yes,
I remembered opening up the volume. I can't remember what volume it is, and it said written by Alan Tudyk, and I was like, that Alan Tudyk, like, that's so cool.
Not that common a name, surely.
And then some more notable authors, Ben Acker and Ben Blacker, and Annie Wu have also worked together on Star Wars Join the Resistance, the middle grade novel series. We've also got Delilah Dawson, who wrote Star Wars Phasma and Black Spire. She's one of my favorite authors, so when I saw her name, I was really excited. I believe the story, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, you might know, she wrote the one featuring Bazine Natal.
Oh,
is that correct?
Yeah, who showed up in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, because I believe she wrote like a short novella that you could get online with her. So I just figured that was the one, or one of the ones that she wrote.
Yeah, I don't. So, Bazine was in Flight of the Falcon. She was one, like, the whole Flight of the Falcon deal. I forget who the author's name is. It's on that. She was an ebook, because the Bazine novella was like an ebook exclusive originally, and the whole Journey to the Force Awakens thing when they were pushing stuff out from everybody. But
was that the one that got like put in the back of like the trade paperback of the paperback version of Black Spire, or? I know there's an exclusive short story or something like that.
Right. It was. I just gotta I'll find it here eventually and yell it out, and everybody will be like, "Wait, what?" But Bazine, that was kind of one of the things that was pretty sweet, because Bazine was tied in with the Flight of the Falcon deal, and you kind of get the idea that when you see her in The Force Awakens, she, when Han shows up and all that, there's a whole backstory and types of stuff that come in there. But yeah, I'll find it here in a minute. But yeah, she's been tied in. Of course, my Kindle app's crashing, so it's just
it knows you need some information, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how technology works.
So we have a couple more notable authors here. Chris Doc Wyatt, who is a writer on the Star Wars Resistance TV show, and we know him, we love him. John Jackson Miller, who wrote Kenobi, among many other Star Wars books. I think Kenobi is probably what he's most known for. So that's amazing. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of people are going to say, oh, Star Wars Adventures is for kids, but man, we've got some really notable authors
Some
here.
heavy hitters. Yeah. Absolutely.
Delilah Dawson wrote The Perfect Weapon. I thought that's who it was.
Oh,
but
The Perfect Weapon. That's what the short story thing was.
And I think though Delilah Dawson did I think she was, I can barely reach it here. Just so happened.
We got our thumbnail. Cool.
The Black Spire. Okay, that was it was all Delilah Dawson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love her work. And when I was flipping through Star Wars Adventures and I saw her, I saw Alan Tudyk, I saw Kevin Scott, I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy.
Yeah, it definitely surprised me as somebody who isn't as familiar. I was like, these are some. I mean, I knew Kevin Scott because Kevin Scott did Tales of Vader's Castle, and between you all and Andrew in our Slack channel, like that's the one that's obviously I've heard of. But these are some pretty big names that I was like, oh, okay, maybe this needs to be a little something I pay a little more attention to.
Right, and I think it's a very Youtini thing to we like to say that Star Wars, regardless of what the age group is intended for, everyone can enjoy every story.
Right.
I mean, like we all love the High Republic Adventures, and that's that's intended for younger readers. And like for me, A Test of Courage is like one of my favorite books of the High Republic so far, and that's a junior novel. Like there are great stories that are being told regardless of what age they're for, so anyone can enjoy them.
The Queen trilogy is probably the most fleshed out Padme stuff, and it's young adult.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in the middle of that right now, so and I'm enjoying that. So I would definitely do not sleep on the young adult novels or the junior novels or whatever they're called. Read what you want to read. Another creed
junior novels
of Youtini.
Junior novels, like a lot of people sleep on them because I would say, like, in order of sleepiness, we've got adult novels, young adult novels, and then junior novels. And I gotta say, like, some junior novels that I've read have been absolutely incredible. Spark of the Resistance by Justina Ireland is one of my favorite Star Wars books that I've ever read. It has some really great Rey and Rose dynamics in there. So same thing goes for comics. Just because it's targeted at a different age group, that doesn't mean that the story doesn't have a big impact on the overall storyline. It just means that it's written for a different audience. So, at Youtini, we love to encourage reading everything that you love, and that includes stuff not necessarily always meant for adults.
Yeah.
So Jacob, since this is IDW and not Marvel, I'm assuming this is not on Marvel Unlimited, correct?
Yeah. So it's gonna take a little time to explain that, because reading these comic books is a little bit more complicated than you might think. So yeah, obviously it's not on Marvel Unlimited. Unfortunately, I cannot plug that today, but it is on Comixology and comics. It's a part of Comixology Unlimited. At least some of the older stuff is. One thing I will note is it happened this year. I will imagine it'll happen next year, but there's a May the 4th sale, and you can buy like the entire IDW catalog for like $30-$40. So I'd probably wait. Maybe pick up some if you're interested, but
there are some omnibuses out there.
Yeah, I think So that's also an option.
A hard copy person.
But so the interesting thing about the hard copies is the trade paperbacks are not in order. So we actually haven't mentioned this yet, but all the like mainline Star Wars Adventures stories are 2-part stories. So like the front half of the issue will be like a main story, and then the back half of most of them are what they're Tales from Wild Space. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Tales from Wild Space.
Which they're like a little shorter, like couple page backup story, which is kind of like a retro thing to be doing nowadays. It was very common in like 60s comics. But so the way it works now is like a trade paperback will be like 3 issues, and normally like there'll be a front half like self-contained story, and then 2 front half like a 2-parter story that was across 2 issues, the front half of those, and then it'll be all of the Tales from Wild Space at the end. So it'll be like issue 1 part 1, issue 2 part 1, issue 3 part 1, and then issues 1, 2, and 3 part 2. So
and they
it's,
may all be from different eras.
yeah, so
too.
it's kind of all over the place. It's very cool because the stories are so small and like there's no timeline they have to stick to, so authors can do like whatever they want. They can explore so much in such a small amount of time. But yeah, so you're not gonna, and then also it's okay. It gets even more confusing. I'm not here. Let me pull it up. I have the the Wikipedia like page
Yeah.
for the issues. So okay, so
Just go there.
okay.
Just go there.
Yeah, so here we have the trade paperbacks, and here we have the issues. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, this makes sense. Cool. Here's annual 2018. If you scroll down, you'll see annual 18 is also down here because it got split across multiple trade paperbacks.
Oh,
here's
fine.
13 through 8. Here's 14 through 18. Oh, here's also 14 through 17 because they put all the Flight of the Falcon story together, which means the backup issues or backup stories all got put in volume 7.
The Flight of the Falcon's actually really confusing to do chronologically. It's really one of those things that you're supposed to like just kind of read it all and put it together in your mind once it's all there.
It's very kind of all.
Headcanon it.
It can be very all over the place, and it's not. Yeah, it's not the most
Reader friendly, collector friendly.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the experience, because I've been reading the trade paperbacks, so it has like that altered order and things are split up and everything like that. I'd be interested to see how it compared to just reading it day to day, or issue to issue. Like I've been, everything so far has been fine. Like it makes sense. I'm just about to start Flight of the Falcon, so we'll see how well I'm able to keep track of it at that point. But so far, it's it's just different. Like if you never knew what the single issues look like, it's fine. You're still getting. Hey, I read trade paperback and front to back. It's complete stories, and that's
Well, and that's the thing, because with Flight of the Falcon, that's what I was kind of saying before, because you have the Justina Ireland and like part of the Flight of the Falcon. If you're going on the trade paperback, like, and it doesn't tell you where the issues.
Oh yeah,
start.
that's another weird thing. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
so,
I
like,
noticed that.
you get to this point in the Flight of the Falcon comic where it's just like you go to one page and it's just Hondo at Black Spire, and you have no idea what's going on, but you had to have read Pirate's Price before that. But then if the Lando's Luck middle grade novel too is tied in there, because that was a Bazine Natal thing where she's like on this hunt for the story of the Falcon.
Are you
So
telling me
it's
I have
like
to buy some
it's a
books
whole-
before I finish all? I'm so close to
Yeah.
finishing all these comics.
yeah, so you need the books. Well, you really only need Pirate's Price.
All right.
Lando's Luck, on the timeline, Lando's Luck takes place like way early, like around Solo Star Wars, but the frame of it is one of Bazine's. It's like she starts with this, and then that's what it's. But Pirate's Price you need.
I'm so
So-
glad that we brought you on the show because I
Right.
did not know that.
Yeah,
and as a parent of an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, I like this because my kids like to read comics and they don't like to read novels. So it's a very good incentive for me to be able to like, well, look, here's a comic of this, and if you want more of this story, go read this novel. And I'm hoping as as we as parents do, try to trick them into doing things that is better for them, even though they don't want to do it. This sounds like a very, very appealing thing for me to do for them.
Yeah.
Not so much for me and
Mm-hmm.
collecting. That seems like my OCD is in overdrive right now.
Yeah.
Well, because that's like it literally. If I'm trying to like, it's funny because I'm live right now, but on a podcast, I'm not gonna be able to show this to people. But like, it literally it's got the little star where it's like, see Pirate's
As
Price
seen
in
in-
bookstores
yep.
now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice,
So, but the
Count
thing is,
Double.
there's no like issue 1 or anything. Like this page finishes one story, and then it goes to this page, and then it's just you're supposed to know somewhere that you got to read Pirate's Price in between there. So
It's like pause, read. A
it'll
book.
make you work. It'll make you work. It's
Yeah. I mean, if you
But
don't
now
want
you
the
know because you're listening to us. So
Right.
there you go.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't want the confusion, just read the first omnibus, and then it stops before it gets all over the place. And then you can also, and then pick up all the miniseries. There's like we haven't talked about it yet. There's a lot of
Yeah,
good
that was what I
miniseries.
wanted to talk about next.
Like there's the Tales from Vader's Castle, Return
Which
to
is
Vader's Castle,
really good.
And then it's gonna be upcoming. Kevin kind of teased it on Twitter, but I think it's Ghosts of Vader Castle. I think
Ooh.
maybe. Those are all by Kevin Scott. And then Destroyer Down was the one Jake was talking about earlier with Rey on Jakku.
I love that one. That
Uh,
one's cool.
I've
Clone
got to
Wars-
read that as a Ray fan. I haven't checked that out
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, it's got like Constable
Zuvio.
Zuvio, like a lot of the
Oh.
characters that you kind of see in the background in The Force Awakens are told in that story.
You actually
so
hear their
cool.
names.
Yeah.
So
and
for
it kinda-
myself
Sorry.
and for readers who are new to this, would you recommend? Would you all recommend we start maybe with these sort of smaller series and then kind of dabble back into the main line?
Honestly, you could probably just get in anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like whatever you
Okay.
find and can get, just read
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, the nice
The
thing
thing
about
is-
these is you can just, I mean, you could honestly pick up, besides Fly the Falcon, you can basically pick up any of these and just read it. The stories are so short and self-contained that you're not like I can't pick up volume 4 of Star Wars 2015 and just read that. I mean, you can,
Right.
but like you're missing a lot. Whereas these, like, you can literally just, if you know what Star Wars is vaguely and have watched some of the movies, you're probably gonna have a good time with any of these.
Yeah. And to me, that's kind of always the way that it was modeled. We try to put together the pieces and put the order in there, but I think of it from the perspective of a kid. You hand one of these comics to a kid, they're not reading something in John Wikipedia the way that we are, where it's
Right.
oh, where exactly does this fall? And like I literally have an Excel sheet that I make notes on. So
Mhm.
like I almost make it not fun for myself. But a
Right.
kid is going to go through who just likes to read comics.
They
and
want to
then
see
I mean,
Luke and
yeah,
Obi-Wan.
they wanna see
and
Luke.
Rey and
But these are
everything.
also
Yeah.
their stories that when they watch the movies or read a book later, they are going to have a little connection to put in, and they're going to say, "I don't really know where I remember that from. I think it was back from those comics, but I remember
Right.
this character. I've met this character before."
Exactly. And
Oh,
that's one of the
which-
things that we were kind of talking about earlier with the also many great authors coming in, is because they're kind of short form series and they jump all over the place. It must be, I don't know too much about it on the business side on the front end, but it must be very easy to go to these authors and say, "Hey, I don't want to nail you down for an entire series, but hey, do you want to come in and write 15 pages of comic books?"
Probably
Right.
fun for them. This is
Yeah.
probably a little fun side project.
Like as a creative person who does a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and playing and things like that, you always have like 13 things like spinning. So when you're given the opportunity to take a small thing that you're like, I could never turn this into a book. Oh, a comic book, like 13 page. Okay, sure. I will definitely write this down and give you this other idea I've been thinking of. So
yeah.
yeah, it's probably like almost therapeutic for them to get even more of their creativeness out there.
Right, and there's some other great miniseries we got is Forces of Destiny, which is like that's also kind of a multimedia thing. So you got like animated videos,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
Yeah,
This
like
was
little
this was a
shorts on
YouTube
YouTube.
short, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Moss
dolls.
narrates them.
Those are pretty.
They're all on Disney Plus now, by the way. If you want to
Ooh.
read the comics and watch them at the same time.
I read
too.
those. Those were very enjoyable. I like. Okay, I have to take a second. And one of my favorite creators I found from this is Elsa Chartier. I don't speak French, so I probably got that very wrong. She did the art for the Leia Forces of Destiny, and also a bunch of other stuff. And it's like very Darwin Cook. If I got some comic book nerds here, Darwin Cook, or like a little bit of Bruce Timm kind of like styling, where it's like that like 90s yet also like 50s styling at the same time. It's beautiful, and
Okay.
like I've like she has actually a really cool YouTube channel I found, and like doing like breakdowns of like, here, let's do a case study of a comic book page and stuff like that. It's like really
Oh,
interesting.
cool.
And I'm probably gonna spend a lot of money and buy like her like coffee table art book. I like her stuff. Whoops. And now I'm spending money on not Star Wars things. Thank you, Youtini.
It's tangentially Star Wars
she,
things.
Hey,
Yes.
she does in her art book. She does break down some of her work for Star Wars Adventures, so it counts.
It does count.
Yeah,
It all's coming together.
yeah. Forces of Destiny is good. Star Wars or Clone Wars Battle Tales, I've heard it's amazing. I've not gotten there yet.
I have not read that one yet. That one
That's a newer title, correct? I
Yeah,
think when I
it
saw
just
that, it was
finished.
affected by COVID. The
Yeah.
release was affected by COVID, so it was more of a recent title.
Yeah.
I have that in my library, and I'm so excited to read it because I've heard only good things about it.
Yeah, that'll be on my list. And then of course we got High Republic Adventures. I mean, what have we not said at this point across all of our episodes? It's fantastic. It's arguably
It's wonderful. Go read
Yeah.
it.
Got that? Yeah, right here. Issue number 5 just came out last week, right, Jacob?
Yes, and
Yes.
Daniel
Yes.
Jose Older has been having a great time on Twitter talking about the issue 6 coming up. I've been tweeting him a lot. It looks really cool. There are Geode will be in High Republic
I was going to say, is
Adventures.
that
Yeah.
what? Okay.
Geode
Geode.
and Affy Hollow, and I think Leox probably is there by association at that point. It's gonna be cool. And then
It's gonna break Twitter.
Yeah. So
It's fun to see the authors having fun. Like
Yeah.
that's something that's new, and especially Kevin and Daniel Jose Older. I remember, when was the High Republic show that was on an infinite delay? That was like 3 weeks ago, right?
yeah, that was like probably
He
5 or 6 weeks ago now at this point. Yeah.
he had made a comment, was like, releasing any minute now. I have big news releasing any minute now, but it was like 2 hours after the show was was supposed to go. We have no idea when it was supposed to go out. We were just
Right.
going by when it was when the previous episodes had gone live, but they just seem to be always having fun and are always excited about every little new announcement that they're a part of. And that is, as a reader, I get more excited about wanting to read this stuff and support them and say, hey, the powers that be, your authors are excited, your readers are excited, give us more.
Yeah, it really shows in the work when an author or an artist is excited and happy about what
Right.
they're doing. It does show, you can tell.
Right. Yeah. And then, so the last thing that, like, outside of the main line of Star Wars Adventures, which I guess should be noted that they also rebooted in 2020. Like you might have noticed in the weekly poll list that there was number 5 was the release, but they, I think, went for like 32 issues in the 32 issues in the first run. So they just started over in 2020. And it's been, they've had a rough time with COVID delays. So that's why it's only 5 issues in so far. But they also have graphic novel adaptations of every single movie, including the Rise of Skywalker. So it is the only adaptation of the Rise of Skywalker in comic books. And then they also have like Rogue One and Solo and every other saga movie.
Nice.
And I read A New Hope just to sit, just so I had one of them under my belt. And it was like, I mean, it's a very good adaptation. They're like 60 to 70 pages, and it
Oh, wow.
doesn't skip any, like, it hits basically everything. Sometimes with that kind of thing, you miss a lot of beats, and like there are only like 2 or 3 moments in A New Hope where I noticed, I'm like, oh, they kind of that got cut. Like they cut out you're a little short to be a stormtrooper, and they cut out the whole thing with like R5 blowing up, and those were like the only things I like really noticed. Like everything else, like they hit beat for beat everything in the story.
Which, face it, the only reason you noticed that they were missing is because we've seen those movies 30 times.
Nerd. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it was, the art style didn't really do it for me. I think the characters were a little bit more. They I don't know. Luke looked like he was 13.
Cheapified, maybe.
You know
is
how
that a
the
term?
episodes of Family Guy, whenever they like Disney-fy themselves, and
Right.
it's just like you automatically know, like that's what it kind of reminds me of sometimes.
It looked like something out of like if the animators that did like the Goofy movie did Star Wars, that's almost what it would look like, and it's very weird specific, but yeah, that's kind of what it made me think of.
And they're more
Now
consistent, whereas like some of the ones that pop up in the trade paperbacks, like you'll see some crazy art. I mean, they do break out a little bit. Like I don't even know. You can kinda
Now I
see
want
it over here.
Powerline in a Star Wars comic line.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Mm.
But I mean, it's
Oh,
like
wow.
some of this
Okay,
stuff.
yeah, there's definitely a Disneyification of that panel on the right on the right hand page and in the okay.
So
But that's one thing that I did kind of like from all these Star Wars adventures is not only do you have different artists, but you also have some like different art writers, but they also have different artists. So you do get to see a lot of like our same favorite characters, but done in different ways. And the great news is if you don't like a one particular style, it's probably not going to be there next week or next issue.
I
yeah.
think
And that's the thing. Sometimes you don't know what you like until you see it.
Exactly.
Put it in front of me and I'll decide.
Yeah, that's one of the, I think the main strengths is like everything is so bite-sized that you get such a variety of artists and writers and stories and characters that it's exploring. Like, like one issue I'm like on Rose Tico, and I mean it was a great story with her and Paige.
Oh.
That one too. That one with Poe. And then like the next one you're like on Luke Skywalker. It's just like all over the place, and it's kind of nice. It's just like it's just all these adventures from all the favorite heroes you've had in Star Wars, just kind of jumbled up, and it's enjoyable.
Some sort of adventures.
You said it
of Star
perfect right
Wars.
there. All these adventures that they have.
Of Star Wars.
Like in the name or something.
So, Jacob, I think you just answered this question, but I wanted to toss this question over to Emma. Like, it sounds like these shorter arcs and these one-off adventures they're very compact, they're very easy to digest. But do you think that helps or hurts this line as a? Geez, I keep hitting my mic. This line as a whole, be able to be more easily consumed by by those of us who are maybe looking to fill in while we're waiting for the next Marvel line to come out.
Yeah, I do think it makes it easier to consume because I would say that it helps in that it'll allow you to pick which characters or which storylines or which eras that you want to read about. You don't have to have read like dozens of other prior issues if you want to read something later on in the run, which is overall really helpful. And if you pick up just a super random volume, you also won't be hurt by that either because there's virtually no prerequisites in picking up these stories. And the great thing is also just the variety of characters that they use. The shorter form allows for more characters to be used. We don't have to sort of, I guess, recycle characters because of the shorter form. I mean, I've only read 5 volumes, and I think there's like 11 total or something like that. And there's been some really unique characters. Captain Antilles from the beginning of episode 4 was in one of them. Like that's kind of a deep cut, and that's a cool, cool character to see. So I'm all for the shorter form, and it also sets it further apart from Marvel, which I think is good. It's good to have variety in comics, and less of sort of quote unquote copying each other. More variety, and yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing is, as we kind of mentioned, it's kind of like a more kid-friendly, kid-focused things. I was going through the Tales from Wild Space. This might sound a little Sunday school VeggieTales here-ish, but at the end of every thing, the Tales from Wild Space always has like a weird moral or theme or what you should take home from that. So did any of those stand out to you, morals that you learned from the Star Wars universe, or then red is bad and blue is good?
I think
kind of a theme that's in between pretty much every single volume is that it pays off to help other people when you're able to help. That's been kind of the moral of a lot of those sort of ending stories, as well as kind of the larger stories as a whole. And I think that's a great lesson for kids to learn. So I think it's definitely on purpose that it's there.
It's very I think a lot of the stories aimed at younger readers are a lot more overt with the hey, we're trying to teach you something here, especially with the Tales from Wild Space, but they're still really enjoyable. It's we haven't talked a whole lot about what they actually are. They're probably 5-page, 6-page backup stories where it's this kid named Emil just flying around in his little spaceship with his 2 very strange odd droids. That he just
his Kowakian monkey lizard.
Kowakian monkey lizard that is kind of awful, as Kowakian monkey lizards are, and he just someone will say something and then he just goes tangent mode. It's that reminds me of a time where it's very important to kids be patient within one another, and then just tells a story about a classic Star Wars character that has
we all know that
relevant.
Person that can take anything and just fly off into a huge story.
It's usually grandpa, but in
this case it's a young boy. He's just wow, it's unfortunate that my Kowakian monkey lizard just tore up our spaceship and we're dying. But let me tell you about how it's very important that you hear people out and don't judge them right away. Let me tell you about a
I feel
time
like from a
that
Star
Han
Wars
Solo did that.
From a
It's
Star
like-
Wars perspective, we're talking about Trevor and Star Wars Archives and how we can
Yeah.
just take anything, any minor little. Oh, you know what? That character who you don't isn't even named in this movie. It actually appeared in this issue of the UK magazine from 1983,
Yep.
and there's 16 pages written about him.
Well, did you guys notice what one of his droids, like the components he's made out of? Because that stood out to me very clearly.
The protocol-ish droid looking, yeah, because it was
Yeah.
he was in Tales of Vader's Castle, right? That was the same droid.
I think
Crater?
so. So is that his name, Crater?
Yeah.
He had like the bottom of a probe droid with the middle of an R2 unit.
droid.
And the top, I don't know what kind of
I don't know
droid
what
that
they're called,
is.
but Professor Huang from the lightsaber thing with Clone Wars.
Right.
It's the
So
protocol
some, like,
droids
really
with like
old
the
droid.
pointy heads, the pointy side
Mhm.
heads. Yeah. I don't know.
He made me laugh every time. I was like, this is like the craziest droid I've ever seen in my life. He's hovering, but he's also like kind of an astromech. It's hilarious.
Yeah, he's very.
All right,
thrown
I want to go
together.
around I want to go around, and I want to start with Jake because he's got one in his hand. I want to know what all of some of your favorite stories are. That can be, well, I mean, I guess it's not really an arc because these are such short stories. But I'm going to go around the room. We'll start with Jake. What is your favorite? If you could choose one, and I'm going to try to. Hopefully, there's not going to be a lot of repetition here. But if you could choose one story that you would be your favorite, what would you choose, Jake?
It would definitely be Destroyer Down, because I just like the continuity with it. As far as like, there's a couple issues that are tied together, but like Emma was talking about with some of these characters that they teach you a little bit of a lesson. That was one of the ones that I read that made me appreciate like Rey's kindness more. I think that's one of the things that the books has kind of given us as far as her characters. But that story ties in with the Aftermath trilogy in a way,
Okay, nice.
because it has like it talks about, I mean, basically it's the leftover from the Battle of Jakku. You get some Rey characterization. It ties in with Force Awakens, but to me, it's one of the Rey stories that I remember. So Destroyer Down would be, if anybody was asking me what Star Wars adventures to start with, that's what I would say they should go to first, because it's definitely going to sell them.
Okay, noted. Okay, let's go to Caleb. What's your favorite story?
Like it has to be. I'm probably sniping someone else's favorite, but Tales from Vader's Castle. Like
I thought you would say that.
it's a really good it kind of gives you like an almost Scooby-Doo sort of vibe of like there's this horror elements and you got your team going through like Scooby-Doo, like the evil Vader castle, but there's just a lot of like heart, a lot of movement to it. Like I felt legitimate emotions at some of the like last ending moments there. So like if you think your kids can handle some like legitimately like horror anthologies of the Star Wars universe, give that a try. 10 out of 10.
Oh, I'm all for scaring my children right before they go to bed. There's that's a
of being
rite
a
of
dad.
passage as a parent. I mean, so Emma, I'm gonna come to you. What's one of your favorite stories?
Yeah, so out of what I've read so far, now I have a real feeling that once I read Clone Wars Battle Tales, that will become a favorite. But since I haven't read it yet, I can't count it. So out of what I have read so far, I have to say there was a Rose and Poe story.
Oh yeah.
And I don't remember, it might have been the first volume.
I think
or,
it was
or the third volume.
Third volume, yeah.
Third volume, yeah. And it just showed sort of Rose's like kindness mixed with her intelligence. And I also enjoyed seeing that Poe already had kind of met Rose before, but Rose sort of refused to give out her name because they were in the middle of a battle and she was trying to fix the ship. And I don't know, I'm a sucker for Rose stories, and I truly enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think reading that story explains. I mean, obviously, we'd love to see Rose have taken a bigger role in the Rise of Skywalker, but
Yeah.
it explains why that character is so integral in like that
Yeah.
planning of the Resistance in that battle.
Yeah, it's like she's always there, even if you don't see her. She's playing one of the most important parts in the entire Resistance, even though it's behind the scenes. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. All right, Jacob. Last but not least,
I'm gonna go
one more story to recommend.
Yeah, I'm gonna go like the most out of left field answer you like no one saw coming. It's not even, I haven't even read the entire issue, but it's behind me. and that is Star Wars Adventures number 30. If you had to guess, what would be the first time? I mean, it kind of just gives away the premise, but what would be the first time the High Republic was depicted in a visual medium?
I'm going to say this issue.
It's that issue. It was not, it came out before if you even count this as depicting the High Republic, it came out before the issue of Rise of Kylo Ren with the Avar Kriss holocron. This came out like a couple of weeks before that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this was the first time the High Republic has ever been shown in anything. It was the backup with Tales from Wild Space. They're like on a planet, and they're like, yeah, there was like this High Republic library, and it shows like the flashback of like this beautiful place before it got wrecked by I think it was wrecked by Nihil raiders.
No way.
Yeah, that is the first time the High Republic has ever been drawn in anything, and of course, I believe Kevin Scott wrote that story, naturally.
That's amazing.
Of course.
Yes, he did. So yeah, it's just like they're like, oh yeah, here's this planet. And there used to be, it was the lost library of Nelganam, which was destroyed by the Nihil. So there you go.
Those damn Nihil.
Yeah, it's always the Nihil's fault. So that's, if you're like a weird High Republic junkie like me, maybe pick that up. They're like,
I was gonna say, I think given the timing of all the middle of the hype that we're in, I think you might have won that round by which one I'm going to pick up first, because I want to consume everything High Republic. So if there's some history,
I guess I'll finish Light of the Jedi.
As Palpatine famously said, "Do it."
Do it.
Oh, and this isn't a roundtable, but I do want to throw in one fun Easter egg I found while reading this week, which was in Tales of Vader's Castle, it was the story that they told in Tales of Vader's Castle, or from Vader's Castle, about Han and the like thorn planet,
the Briar Witch sort of thing.
He mentions the planet Kiva. I'm like, that sounds familiar. I thought it was like something from Aftermath, but no, it is one of the planets in Galaxy of Fear. So there you go, Jared. There's your Legends
nice.
tie-in of the week. Yeah. So there you go.
Interesting.
And the first story almost had something with Ruhr the Undying, practically.
Yeah, that okay. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot.
Didn't name it.
Yeah, I was like, is that Ruhr? It's the Kanan story.
Yeah,
like the haunted ship was like, oh, it was a
the
Jedi,
the ghost on the
and
ghost,
it's a glowing green crystal. It's like what? But yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, this has definitely been a really interesting conversation, and now I think when I go, because I haven't picked up my week my pull list this week from the comic store, I might go grab what's ever there from IDW. So I appreciate everybody giving myself and our listeners a little bit of an insight into this, because this is, I will admit, this is something that I've definitely overlooked in my comic backlog. So thank you everybody for giving myself and everybody else who's new to this some insight in this. So
absolutely, this is fun. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah. Before we go, Caleb,
we do have an announcement here, don't we?
We do have an announcement, and I would not want to take this away from you.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna let you be the one that shares this news with our audience. So go ahead.
Yes, the very next roundtable, which won't be next episode or even the one after that, but it'll be July the 14th. I think that's in, let me pull up my calendar
like 3
here.
weeks.
In 3 weeks from now, we will be doing a roundtable of our very own favorite series, Lando 2015. So make sure you read that. The links are in the description, so pick it up, give it a read through, but we will be here in 3 weeks to discuss it and just, do some deep dives, talk about some lore, because there's a lot more lore to have disappeared into this in the last 6 months, a year with the new comics here. So you're really going to enjoy it. It's really, really great. So we've, that'll be in 3 weeks, and we'll see what we can get in trouble there. I want to also say thank you to Jake for coming on our show and spreading your information. We would have been dead in the water without you.
It'd be like, all right, the first, it'd be like, okay, Star Wars Adventures is fun, and then Flight of the Falcon happens, and I'm not sure what that is. So,
but yeah,
all right,
I was glad to be here.
Us.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely, and that's gonna go ahead and do it for this week's episode of the Cosmic Force. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're here with us still live on YouTube. First, thank you. Second, make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you can be notified when we go live every Wednesday night at 8, or one of our other shows like The Living Force goes live on Monday, or Legends Look Back on Thursday. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review on iTunes, leave us a comment here, give us a thumbs up. We always appreciate the positive feedback from all of you, and it also helps if you're giving us a review on iTunes. It helps new listeners find the show. So thank you from us, and thank you for the new listeners who you're helping. Be sure to visit youtini.com for reviews, articles, and news for the entire expanded universe. Like I said at the top of the show, we encourage you to join our Youtini Discord community by going to youtini.com/discord. If you'd like to help support the show, you can find us on patreon.com/youtini and start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. A special shout out to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sandler on our Jedi High Council level, along with Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Ellerson on our Alliance High Command Patreon levels. Thank you again for all of your amazing support. We literally could not do this without your support, so thank you very much. You can tweet the show at Cosmic Force Show or the host individually. I'm on Twitter at TyRags. Emma is at IrmaJedi26. Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek, and Jacob is at Jacob Bosch. Thank you again to Emma, Caleb, and Jacob, and a special thank you to Jake for coming on and hosting tonight. Special thank you to all of our listeners who are listening wherever and whenever you are. Thank you for those of you that were in the chat tonight. You were always a special part of the show. And we really do appreciate everything that you do. So until next week, may the force be with you.